All right, you guys know me. I'm a pretty heartless person, and I don't get excited about bringing too many people on this podcast because most celebrities you meet, it never lives up to your expectation. First of all, I have a co-host for this episode, the one and only Mississippi Pride, and I mean pride in every which way of that word, Mr. Eric Carter.
Yo, what's up?
Yo. We have maybe my most well-looked-upon guest ever in the history of Inappropriate Earl. He comes from one of, if not the greatest wrestling family, and I don't mean the Wyatt family. I don't mean Kane and the Undertaker, who really were never brothers. I mean, let's keep it real here. I don't mean Afa and Sika, the Wild Samoans, the Johnson family, the Hogan family, especially these days. Jeez. Horace Hogan, you're going to save that family. I never thought I'd say that. I used to watch this man's uncle, father wrestle Olympic Auditorium. I'm a WCW guy through and through, even through the lean years when they had Norman Smiley as the hardcore champion. It is, without further ado, I can't give this man a proper introduction. Mr. Chavo Guerrero.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me, guys.
No, I'm happy that you would sit in a room with me after, we originally met at the Iron Sheik roast.
Right. But you had all that makeup on, so I when I saw you again the second time, I was kind of like, do I know you? Oh, that's right.
I mean, it's came out as the Ultimate Warrior at the Iron Sheik roast.
No, the other makeup you had on. No, I'm just kidding.
When I came out as Gangrel. No, I'm just kidding. The Warrior is a very divisive man in the he's my favorite wrestler of all time, in full disclosure, just because I loved the gimmick he had. But he, let's just say, made some enemies in the business. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. He did his own thing, and I respect that. He was on top, and had everybody gunning for him. So, when you're the top of the heap, everybody's trying to knock you down. So I can't. I've never walked a mile in his shoes. You know what I mean? So it's one of those that you may not agree with some of the things that he's done, but more power to the guy because he did something right. People are still talking about him. So.
Well, his hour-long shoot video on YouTube where he really rips into Hogan he basically interviews himself, and
that guy, I see that.
It is if you have an hour to spare, Chavo, it's maybe the greatest YouTube video ever made.
Did he talk about walking on the mountaintops and going to the moon and all different stuff? Did he just go off, go crazy? Because he'll go on a tangent. Some of a bitch will go on a tangent. I couldn't imagine having a beer with a guy and just have him just talk. You'd be going, this dude is whacked.
Well, were you in WCW when they brought him back?
Yes, and that's the first time I actually met him, and he was up on the product right away. I mean, that's like my first, maybe second year in the business, and he's coming up to me and going, "Hey, Chavo, man, I really like what you're doing and stuff." So he was a really cool guy backstage, and he could have come in as, doing a Dennis Rodman bullshit where he just would not talk to anybody because he's Ultimate Warrior. But he came in and was just super cool to everybody, man. I really liked him.
You mentioned Dennis Rodman. Did it rub the boys in the back the wrong way when, your family, you yourself start out from humble beginnings, busting your ass in high school gyms, places like Stu Hart's dojo. Did it bother you to see a guy who... Not really. I mean, he paid his basketball dues, but wrestling ain't basketball.
You know what? I just think that he's a introverted guy, and you can't expect everybody to come in. If I went into basketball and was playing their game, then I'm sure I would have been introducing everybody. Karl Malone was there also, and Karl Malone was in our locker room with the guys with his shirt off, all ripped up, telling us basketball stories of how he owes Shaq an elbow to the head and all this. He was just cool, man. He was a big wrestling fan. It was just really, really cool dude. And Rodman wasn't. Rodman came in and really didn't talk to anybody. He just kind of, did his own thing. But if you know anything about Rodman now, he's an introverted guy, so I don't know if you think he's the most social guy out there. So, I didn't get to know him enough to to say that he's a dick, to be honest. You know what I mean? I hear that he's cool. If you know him, if you're in a circle, that people say he's a cool dude.
Well, I mean, WCW, I think they tried to bring in the celebrity angle a few times. Sometimes it worked.
Oh yeah, you know Jay Leno, like being
At
Hogan and stuff.
Sturgis.
Sure,
the,
sure.
Kiss.
Gotcha.
Kiss, the Demon wrestler.
Yeah,
which,
yeah, they were cool though. They were cool. I like Gene Simmons, all those guys.
Oh, I just met him the other day for the first time.
Did you?
Was,
He keeps calling me, trying to borrow money from me and shit. I'm like, no.
well, he's Jew. You probably have more money than Kiss at this point.
No. If you know anything about Kiss, those guys are marketing geniuses.
Well, they are, but instead of putting out Kiss condoms, how about maybe a better album? That might.
Well, I don't know if they're still doing music and that kind of stuff. They're not going to be putting out a new album, I don't think.
Well, has now we're going to get all into wrestling, but has like older artists like Kiss? Do you want to? Now, are you a Kiss fan? Or,
Sure.
Do you want to see them put out new music, or do you just want to go to the concert scene and play the songs?
Not really. I want to hear, Dr. Love and that kind of stuff, And I want to hear Beth and that kind of stuff. I don't really want to hear any new stuff, to be honest. I think the last great Kiss song to me was like "Lick It Up" or something like that. I don't know if you can say great, but that's the last one I kind of really remember, right?
Well, that's my favorite Kiss song, to be honest with you, because it was that was right after they kicked out Ace Frehley.
Yeah, okay.
And they brought in a guy by the name of Vinnie Vincent.
Yeah, right.
And he wrote the whole album.
So I didn't know that.
Well, I'm full of useless information.
Me too. I know a whole lot about nothing and a little about everything.
Well, that's more than I do. I mean, I can tell you who joined the NWO in what order.
In what order?
You were in the LWO.
I can't even tell you that.
I can. I mean, it was... but just real quick on Vinnie Vincent. Vinnie Vincent kicked out of Kiss 3 times in a year and a half.
Wow.
He then forms the Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
Which is, a stellar rock and roll Hall of Fame group.
Not really. Kicked out of the Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
They 51%ed him?
Yeah, but how are you kicked out of the Vinnie Vincent Invasion?
Well, if you're Vinnie Vincent, what are they called when he leaves? Are they like the Vinnie Vincent Invasion with now John Smith playing the role of Vinnie Vincent?
Well, they ended up becoming Slaughter to really answer your question.
Oh, really?
And then,
they did well for themselves. So
they did right.
Good for them.
They had a nice run in
they kicked out the right guy.
Early '90s, and but that's when I really started getting into wrestling. So I lost.
They call themselves the Vinnie Vincent Evacuation.
Don't give Vinny any ideas, because I know he listens. I know Gene Simmons listens to this podcast.
Does he? Well, Gene, hey, big peace out to you, Gene, because I've read your books, marketing genius. Learned a lot from him.
Although I will say the wrestler, the Demon, it didn't go over.
Oh, also, Dale Torborg, that's his name. He is the strength and conditioning coach for the Chicago White Sox.
Okay.
Yeah, so still a really cool guy, still a good friend. I still talk to him, and he still gets me tickets to the White Sox. So it's all good.
Nice.
It's all good.
Now, getting into wrestling characters.
His dad was the Chicago Cubs, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, he was
Chicago Cubs manager, Torborg. So that's pretty good.
Do you he was a good wrestler, right? He
was totally good. He's a big guy.
Yeah,
really big guy, 6'4", really big guy. But yeah, sure.
Do you? And now you're an amazing technical wrestler.
Amazing.
I think you are
amazing, so good.
But I thought the Warriors Gorilla Slam was amazing too.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm not the one to judge wrestling. Did you I look at guys like you, Lance Storm.
Sure.
Eddie Guerrero,
right? Dean Malenko, Chris
Dean
Benoit,
Malenko,
Steven Regal or William Regal, you want to call him, Fit Finley, all those guys. Those guys they all trained me. The reason why I'm kind of where I'm at is because those guys would kick my ass every night.
But did you like it when you were put in comical roles? Like Santino is another one.
Sure.
Who's a good technical wrestler, but no one takes him. The fans kind of laugh. Do you like being in the comedy roles, or would you rather have a...
Look, I've talked about this before. If it was up to me, if it was to any wrestler, we would all be the champ. We'd all be the John Cena or the Batista or whatever you want to call it. We'd all book ourselves in that sense. But we're not. We don't write the shows. So what happens, a lot of times you'll be off TV, and they'll present you something. It's like, okay, so I can say... yes and get back on TV and try to knock it out of the park, or I can say no and probably get fired for, not really doing anything. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you make lemonade out of lemons, and sometimes you got to keep yourself on TV and keep that paycheck coming in. So that being said, I have been able to be the good guy, the bad guy, the tag team wrestler, the singles wrestler, the comedy guy, a white guy. I mean, all these different, all these different things. And that actually worked to my advantage a lot of times because Hollywood now, people that know, they watch and wrestling. There's a lot of fans in Hollywood. A lot of people that are higher execs in Hollywood are wrestling fans. In fact, I just came from 2 meetings with some pretty high producer guys that were huge wrestling fans, and that's the first thing they were telling me is like, man, you can do everything. So a lot of guys have always been one character in the ring, just mean, tough, bad guy, which is great, perfect, no problem. But that's the only facet they're ever showing, and I think I was one of those guys that can kind of show that I can do everything. Whether you liked it or not, it doesn't really matter. First and foremost, I got to keep a paycheck coming in, so that's kind of what I've had to do. But it just kind of works for you, and now people are kind of seeing it and say, well, this guy can be funny. He can be the jerk. He can be, make people cry, make them laugh, make them hate him, make them cheer him, and that's just kind of what you got to do, in this day and age.
Is it harder to, like we were talking right before we started about Roddy Piper being such an amazing bad guy, and when I was a kid, I hated him because I really thought, wow, this guy's a dick. The whole snuka and coconut and beating up.
I hated him too, man. He was the conqueror of the Guerreros. He'd go to one of those little, not even a silk screen shop back then. He would just go get a white T-shirt where they would just iron on the little felt letters, and it'd say "Conqueror of the Guerreros," and you wear it on TV. And I'm like, no, you're not. And he was, man. But he beat my dad and beat my grandfather and beat my uncles. And I tell this story at his memorial where he was going to apologize, and he brought out his donkey and he called it. He's apologizing to Mrs. Guerrero, my grandma. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I mean, had riots going on all over in L.A. Then, of course, he was told by the office that he had to apologize. He had to apologize to the Hispanic people and to the Guerrero family. So the Olympic Auditorium is completely sold out. He goes into the middle of the ring and says, I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to play the national anthem on the bagpipes because I'm a Scottish player, and that's what all Scots do is play the bagpipes. So he got in the middle of the ring and tests his bag, to test the and now it starts playing the cucaracha. La cucaracha, ya no puedo caminar. As the Mexican national anthem, and people, and that place is sold out. Half of LA wanted to kill him,
legitimately,
including me. Yes, no wonder the guy's had been stabbed, all the different times, and actually there was somebody. He just told a story on my podcast, the Chavo Show. Well,
please, where can people listen to? I rarely like to plug someone else's podcast.
Well, it's not a podcast. It's different than yours. It's not competing with yours. It's on geeknation.com, and it's more like a video conference where I'm talking. We're just telling stories and kind of just drinking beer on set and the whole deal. So it's kind of a total different deal. So it doesn't compete with you at all. No. But I
could never compete with you.
Well, he just told the story of how somebody had a gun and pointed right at him. He was coming. Yeah, he came down, and I didn't tell that story at his memorial. I didn't want to talk too long up there, but he told a story where he walks to the ring, and somebody stands up and goes and points this gun right at Piper. Piper didn't even know what was going on, and Jimmy Lennon, the ring announcer, who Jimmy Lennon Jr., the boxing ring announcer now, but his father stands up and pretends that he's looking for something else, and the guy's pointing. He's in the way of the bullet and Roddy, and the guy's going, get down, and Jimmy's he's probably a 68, 69-year-old man at the time, and he's just looking around kind of like clueless on purpose, standing in the way of the gun. All of a sudden, cops jump on this guy, take him to the back, take him to the back, take the gun away, and there's a bullet in the chamber that's got engraved on it, like scratched, and it says Piper.
Yeah.
That was going to kill Piper right there in the middle of the Olympic Auditorium.
Fuck.
That's,
That was my uncle. My uncle.
Which
my Uncle
Guerrero
Paul.
was
Yeah,
this?
my Uncle Pablo was going to do it. No.
I do have a question.
Yeah,
so
man.
so during the I Conquered the Guerreros, you were a kid.
Sure.
And you hated him. Would you ask like your dad, your uncles, like, why does he do this? And when you do, would they like just sell the story at home?
Oh yeah, we were very kayfabe. The kayfabe was still very much alive and never really smartened me up to the business, whatever you want to call it, to where, they never really explained how the business worked. We just thought that it was this guy was just a jerk, and until I met Roddy, and then you could put two and two together, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's just like, he's just really good at his job, and yeah, I did. I hate the guy, man. I didn't. You love they hated the villains and you love the good guys. Now it's a little change sometimes where you kind of love the villains. It's kind of it's changed. It's very very gray areas now. But back then it was like if you were a bad guy, they hated you, and if you're a good guy, they loved you. But back then the bad guys were very good at their job, very 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 good. And when I'm a bad guy, that's something that I always try to keep is I want 10,000 people chanting Chavo sucks, not 9,999.
Right.
So the one guy's going, yeah, Chavo, you're good. I'm looking at him right away and going, yeah, I know I'm good. That's what your mom told me last night. I was good. And he's like, yeah, okay. And tell your mom I want my underwear back. And I will stay on that guy until he starts saying that I suck. I don't want anybody cheering me. If I'm a bad guy, I'm doing my part and I want them to boo the heck out of me. That's just the way it goes.
Do you prefer being a bad guy or a good guy?
Much more the bad guy. Much more. Because a good guy, you'll still have, people going, yay, Chavo, you're cool, you're great. But you'll still have those few people saying, you suck. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're supposed to be cheering me. You can't really control that. I mean, if he says I suck, what am I going to do? No, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm a good guy. No, really. You're supposed to cheer me. He's still going to say I suck. But when you're a bad guy, I can turn those supporters. I can turn those guys. I can turn them to really hate me.
Yeah, I love bad guys much better.
Yeah, right.
I think Sting's the only good guy, actually.
You like? Well, Sting had an edge to him, He's kind of, even though he's not really a bad guy, he's got that little tough edge, I mean,
I don't really like what they're doing with him in the WWE, but,
I don't really watch it too much, and...
But you're busy. I'm
well,
not.
yeah, well, busy. I just, I don't know... where that's going to go. I'm sure he's, because he's a master performer, so I'm sure he's going to do really well. It's just been a long time coming. He's been signed there for over a year or whatever, right? Now they're starting to use him, so I hope they do something well with him.
They already ruined him when
did they? I didn't see it. So
I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble, man.
That's okay.
But,
Go ahead, keep talking. I
Well,
don't work for them anymore.
Oh, okay. In that case, well, I mean, it kind of goes in line with booking. I mean, there's always been and you were in the Monday Night Wars,
Sure.
knee deep. You went over. I think you were one of the last few contracts bought into the WW. I still want to say WWF.
Yeah, I was one of 12 or something that they bought, and I was the very last one to make it to stay there.
So you know all about the booking and
I used to book the WWE.
Did you really? Jeez, I wish you'd go back there.
No, I didn't.
Well,
I funded McMahon,
Jeez, well, I wish you were back in there. The writing's horrible. I got to be honest with you.
You know what? And before you go on, that's what I say to any fan out there that watches wrestling, and if you don't like something that's going on, say, oh, that match wasn't good, or this storyline is horrible. Do not blame the wrestlers. Blame the writers, because the wrestlers have nothing to do with it. At times, we may have some input. I'm sure John Cena has input, but a lot of times you just got to take what's written for you and just kind of go do it. You just it'd be like telling Robert De Niro, I didn't like that line that you delivered, the line that dialogue you had in Analyze This. Well, he doesn't write the show.
Right.
And it says like that. If you don't like a match that's going on or a character that we're doing, well, we don't write it. We just kind of got to play it out. We're just acting it out there sometimes,
Well, I'm just an idiot fan.
Well, me too.
No, but you're a high level performer. You've been where I just watch, but I just they brought Sting in, fight Triple H,
Right.
And there's not a person on this planet who has explained to me why Triple H beating him, and they kind of dogged him the whole process, how that made Sting look strong.
Did he fight Triple H?
They did a little build up. I think he appeared at Survivor Series. Interrupted a match with the Authority, which is like their heel stable now, and then he fought Triple H at WrestleMania and he lost.
I didn't see that.
It was awful.
Was it bad? I think Triple H he's really good at keeping himself on top. However that goes, but I wouldn't, if I was booking that, there's no way Triple H does not need to win that at all. It does nothing for Triple H.
Well,
if anything, you got to make Sting. You got to make him strong. He's first coming into your organization. But you know what? Hey, again, I didn't book it, and I'm sure they have some other plans that are going that way.
Right. Well, I just as a fan, I and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm 46. I'm not bragging. I look pretty good, right, for 46?
You look great. Shit, I've seen all these hockey trophies around. I'm sure you've.
That's all I have left to hang on to.
You've fought some guys.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not a very. I've got the reflexes of the great Khali on lithium. So, but like, I don't. Triple H's character is what it is, whether he wins or loses, and it just seems like another attempt by the WWE to bury a WCW guy.
I don't see any good in doing that. It doesn't work. That doesn't work for anybody. I mean, if that kills Sting, it kills WWE. I think it kills everybody. There's a way to book you want to call it, to write storylines where everybody wins. You make everybody. Look, they're playing my song.
Oh, they're coming for Chavo. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, no, but there's a way to make everybody win. There's a way to do it to where you achieve the goal that you want. Now, I'm not in the booking meeting, so I don't know if that's what they're going for, and I don't know if they're saying, well, we're just going to bury Steen. Although that sometimes is their MO. They get, you get on somebody's bad side and they just bury you. But I'm sure they're paying Sting a whole lot of money, and they're probably not doing that. So,
but I would just think that Sting has enough clout to not necessarily dictate what goes on.
Sure, absolutely.
But to say, hey, man, I'm not going to job to Triple H. Is that more like he has a bad... I know you don't know his behind-the-scenes team, but
sure.
I would think he would say, I want to win my first match, so I look good.
I don't know, man. Sometimes they test you to see where you're at, and okay, he'll play ball. Okay, then we'll play ball with him. But I don't know, man. I wasn't in there, and I didn't see the match, so I can't really comment. Although I have been commenting, I can't really comment either way and say, well, they did this wrong or they did that right. I'm kind of being a little gray area here, but just because I just didn't, I don't have room to talk. Trust me, if I thought they booked him wrong, I'll tell you they booked him wrong. This was absolutely incorrect.
Well, you were there when they booked Goldberg, right? From his,
sure.
I kind of liked how they did that. You build him up to be this. I don't want to say WCW version of Stone Cold, but
sure.
And it's okay. It's believable. I don't know.
Well, Goldberg's a believable guy, though, man. Too. He'll smash your face.
Did you?
He really will.
You had some matches with him.
Yeah, sure. He's a good friend of mine, but he's a really legit tough guy. Even though he's a very nice guy, he'll give you the shirt off his back. He'll when he punches you in the face, you'll know it. He's a strong guy. He's not scared of anybody.
Like, to someone who comes from such an amazing wrestling family like you, did it bother, not you personally,
sure.
but you or the boys, that a guy like Goldberg, comes from a football background and he just gets that almost immediate push? It was like...
No, you know why? And I don't think so, because he was a very humble guy. He didn't come in all ready, just like he was the cock of the walk. He was a very humble guy and was in the locker room for a long time before he got that push, doing maybe dark matches and doing little things, and I'd work with him. My Uncle Hector worked with him a bunch of different times, and he's just a very humble guy. So when they made that push to him, it wasn't his idea. They started pushing, and it just took off, and just that thing gained such momentum, and he just became this. He was so good, you couldn't teach anybody that. He was so good at coming in and just the walk and with the pyro, and he just looked like this crazy, strong, tough guy. There's a lot of guys that have that look backstage. You put them in camera, and they don't have that look. This guy he had it, the intensity, he had all that. So that I don't think that was really manufactured. I think that was something that they kind of, put him out there and they say, "Wow, we didn't expect this."
Right.
And they ran with it. So we weren't. No, Bill was such a cool guy, that if he was a with big time or something like that, well then different story. But he was very humble at all times, and was always knew that he was getting that push and that he had a lot to learn. He didn't think not at one time did he ever, at least to me, was ever like, I know what's going on. I'm
right.
Listen to me. I'm the veteran out here. Never once. And he had everybody in his ear. He had Hogan in his ear telling him one thing. He had Nash in his ear telling him something else. He had Eric Bischoff in his ear telling him something else. So he's got 20 people in there. That's the reason why at times he's kind of bitter on the business, is because he was messed with a lot. When people he thought were his friends, and they were just out for their own, and just trying to align themselves with him. So I see his point. I would never have wanted to be him. I would want his money, but I would never want to have been in that position, because he'll even tell you, out of all those matches he wrestled, he really didn't even really ever learn the business, actually to go in and call a match and go 25 minutes with somebody that you've never even met and just go out there and tear the house down, So he'll tell you that.
Do you like working with, I don't want to say he was green in wrestling, but is it easier for you to, where you call a match with a guy like Goldberg, or do you like? No,
I'll call a match with anybody, pretty much. Now, I've been around long enough now, when you sit back and let somebody call it. Like, for instance, when I first wrestled Kane, first time, it's Kane. I can make some suggestions, but I'm going to sit and let him kind of feel me out. And after a few matches, now that he's letting me do everything, because he has trust in me. Same thing with Taker. The first time I wrestled Taker, you sit back and this has already been, I've been in there a little bit, and he's like, you let him call it, but then once he gets trust in you, well then they let me take over. Right. And I'll just sit there. He feels like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's not going to just go into business for himself. He's going to make me and make the match at the same time, and then make himself. So when you've arrived, when that starts happening, when I have Ric Flair coming up to me going, "Hey, Chavo, great match," or Stone Cold Steve Austin going, "Chavo, great match," then you're starting to know a little something.
And what do you do? And I'm not asking you to name names, but you can if you want.
Sure.
When it's the opposite, where you're in a program with someone and there's just not the chemistry. How do you make it work? You have to make it work.
There's nobody to blame but myself. Being a veteran, you can't blame anybody. You should be able to have a match with a broom. Now, you're going to sometimes have better matches with certain brooms, but you have to be able to disguise their faults and accentuate their strengths. And being a Guerrero and not just putting ourselves over all the time, but that's something that we've had to learn to do, because we were small brown guys in a big white guy world. And for us to wrestle in Japan and wrestle in Mexico and United States and Europe and everywhere, we had to learn those styles and then adapt to everybody so that we could always wrestle, because they weren't looking at us going, "Oh, this guy's the..." Never once they look at anybody in my family and go, this is the next big thing." Never once, because we don't look like that. We don't look like that. We don't portray that. Now you get in the ring, it's a different story, but we've had to convince them. Eddie forever was overlooked, was a guy that could make other people look good, until finally they gave him that chance. He became, the heavyweight champion, and then after that, they still put him in a program with Luther Reigns, who was Kurt Angle's bodyguard, and wanted Eddie to get him to look good. Not that Luther couldn't on his own, but they wanted Eddie to make him, and Eddie was pissed. He's like, "Man, I should be working with Triple H and with Shawn Michaels and stuff." But they put him back in that position just because it's a gift and it's a curse. We've always been able to work with anybody, but that being said, we've always had to make other people look better than they could make themselves look, and there was really nobody to make us look better than we were. Although there was, of course, always great wrestlers, but a lot of times they wouldn't put us together because of the fact that just they can get, instead of getting one match, they get two matches. They get that other wrestler making somebody else look good, and then we got us making somebody else look good.
Well, that was what I loved about WCW when you were there. It's like, just I guess you'd say middleweight matches. You,
Cruiserweight, yeah.
Eddie, Benoit, Lance Storm. I don't want to say smaller guys because you guys are all big guys.
No,
to me.
but Appaloosie smaller guys.
But
For
like
sure.
that, WWE had these, bigger, almost maybe it's not wrong wording, archaic, monsters who, couldn't wrestle 5 minutes, and I think that's what put WCW over the top for a bit.
The business changed. So when we first came in as cruiserweights, so I kind of just told the story. So you have Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko. Those are kind of like the three amigos, we want to call them. They were everywhere together. They were in Japan together. They were in ECW together, and they all came over to WCW together. They changed the way business was looked. So I was talking to Jeff Farmer, who used to be Cobra and also the NWO Sting. Remember
him.
NWO Sting? Okay,
I
great.
did.
Of course I did.
So he was telling me a story because he was there in WCW before we got there, and he said when Benoit and Eddie came in and they did a match on Saturday Night Main Event. They did their match and they came back. It was like 10, 12-minute match. They came in the back. He said that everybody was looking at him like, "What was that? How did we've never seen anything like that before?" And these guys have been doing that. They just went out there and called it. Jeff told me, he goes, it looked like these guys had rehearsed this for 3 weeks. They didn't know. They were like, they were still punching and kicking, and doing big man moves, a body slam and a clothesline, and these guys were doing hurricanranas and all these different words that I could tell you, and you could be like, "What the heck is that?" And they were in awe. And then all of a sudden, Terry Taylor, who was one of the agents, came into the back and was like, "That's the way you work. That's the way it's done." Everybody was like, "What? What the heck was that?" That's when the business started changing. Then they brought all us cruiserweights in, and we started doing all these different things. We all worked together because the upper echelon, who was, the Hogans and the Lex Lugers and those guys, they wouldn't work with us. Not that we were even on their level, but there were some of us that could have definitely competing with them. They wouldn't work with them. They continued to work with themselves. So we would work with ourselves. And everybody I've talked to, and it's different for me because I was there, but people tell me they would always watch the first hour of WCW. And then when the main event started coming on the second hour, they would switch to Raw and started watching the second hour of Raw because the fact that we were always on the first hour, us young guys that were going crazy. Then Raw changed. It went from being big man, punch, kick, to all of a sudden you saw these guys doing backflips. And, one time you had Kane doing a hurricanrana on somebody. It changed. The business changed because we changed it. Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho and Fit Finlay and Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Juventud Guerrero and all the guys from Mexico. Rey Mysterio, I think I said, we changed it. We changed the way business was.
Don't forget La Parka.
La Parka was awesome. A lot of us could do our moves because La Parka would base us correctly.
Right.
So he'd make us look. If you can fly all you want, if there ain't somebody there to catch you, you're gonna die. The Park was a very good base. Silver King was another guy that wouldn't do flips, but he would base you and make you look great. Go ahead.
I used to do that when I was during the Monday Night Wars, watch Nitro for the first hour. I was a small guy.
Just punch and kick?
And my brother was big and strong. We always have matches. We were trailer trash kids in Mississippi.
Hey, I got you.
And
I'm brown white trash, so we're good.
The first luchador.
Trash.
The first luchador match was I saw with Psychosis versus Rey Mysterio, and I was
crazy, blown away, right?
Blown away
Yeah.
because I've been past 8 WrestleManias, used to that, just boom, boom.
Sure.
And then I remember the first thing I practiced was like slinging myself over my bed rail because it was a large frame and I was like real short. And I started doing Hurricanranas with my brother when he tried to do like power moves on me. And no, I just remember very first time watching Psychosis Rey Mysterio, I was blown. I said, "What is this?"
They changed the business, man.
And then all the guys you just mentioned, I started, like I said, first I watch all them quick matches, flying over the ropes.
Yep.
And, going 100 miles per hour. Then once, 100 members of the NWO came out,
Yep.
I'll go to Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, totally. Then you start watching DX and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's what people tell me, so.
Well, I mean, WCW, that's why it's so neat to have you, because you were there.
Right,
and
right.
To me, WCW went wrong just as an idiot fan.
Sure.
Some of the older guys wouldn't pass the torch.
Yeah, there was numerous things why it went wrong. Sure, that you don't want to, some of them didn't want to work with us, whatever. I mean, there's no hard feelings. I get it. I tell a story. So Bret Hart comes in. Bret Hart, just leaving WWF at the time, just got the Montreal screw job to him, he was the champ. He comes in to WCW. The Hall and Nash always had this clause in their contract that no one could get paid higher than them, except for Hogan and Bret if he came in. Anybody else, if they got paid higher, Hall and Nash would automatically get a bump, which is amazing. I don't know. I can't believe they actually WCW actually gave him that contract, but they did, and good for them. But so Bret comes in making probably second to Hogan only, and that's it. He comes in. Everybody in WCW have their own locker rooms. All the main stars. Goldberg's got his own locker room because we were always in the biggest arena, so so many dressing rooms. Hogan had his own dressing room. Hall and Nash had their own dressing room. Lex Luger had his own dressing room. Sting, own dressing room. All of us, we would dress in the community, the team dressing room.
Right.
Well, Bret Hart comes in and changes right next to us in our dressing room. And I always wondered why he did that. Why he did that? Why didn't he get his own room? So I asked him one of these times when I was in WWE, and he came in finally, and I hadn't seen him for years because he had that issue with Vince, right? Finally, when he came back in and started to patch things up, he was in our locker room, and I asked him why. And since then, we've gotten very close. He's a good friend of mine now. But I asked him, why did you dress in our dressing room? And he goes, well, I was watching the show. You guys were the ones having the good matches. I figured I'd better be cool to you guys because I'm going to have to wrestle you guys. I'm going to want to wrestle you guys. So I want to dress next to you guys. It was a pretty cool thing. That's Bret Hart. He's one of the boys, man. He came in and was like, he never got too big for his, he never believed the hype, put it that way.
What was it like working with Bischoff back then?
I got mixed emotions. And I'm friends with Eric now, so I can always anything I always say in person on broadcast on podcasts and stuff is nothing that I would never ever say or I wouldn't say to somebody's face, because that's just the way I work. If I'm going to tell somebody this, if I'm going to talk trash about somebody, that's something I would say to somebody's face. I'll never deny it.
Well, I'm not necessarily asking you to talk shit.
No. I'm just saying this. Just that's just the way I work. So with Bischoff, I've kind of we've talked. So Bischoff was great in some respects. He hired me. He took a chance on me. This young kid that never really had done anything. I gave me a debut match. I went out there and he was like, the kid's good. He's got charisma, just doesn't know how to use it yet. I remember him saying that. He's like, all right, cool. Took a chance on me, gave me much more money than I deserved. When I came in to talk for my second contract, my after I think 2 years maybe it was, he talked directly with Eric and gave me again much more money than I deserved. So in that aspect, he was great. He's very generous. On some things, he was kind of an asshole because I see it now, looking back, not putting myself in his position now, being a veteran in this business. The guy was being pulled in every direction and fighting with networks and Turner, and then after Turner it was AOL and Time Warner, and fighting with all these guys. So he was just trying to, keep his head above water. So I get it. He's going to take it out on us guys instead of Hogan. He couldn't take it out on Hogan because they wouldn't take it. So I get it. So at times he was great. Sometimes I wanted to punch him. But I guess I'd say now that now we're friends and we look back at it now and kind of like it's just the business. Everything happens for a reason, and I am where I am now because Eric gave me that chance, and he is where he is now because him taking a chance as an announcer and convincing the execs that he can run a wrestling company, and he did a pretty damn good job for a while.
Well, listen, he gets an eternal lifetime pass for me for being the minister in the Billy and Chuck gay wedding angle.
Right.
That to me is maybe the greatest swerve of all time.
He understands the business, man. He understands entertainment, and look at what he's doing now. He's got him and Jason Hervey have their production company, and they've sold reality shows to almost every major network out there. So they're doing something. He learned something.
Now, speaking of reality shows,
yeah,
I know the WWE has their show Tough Enough.
Yeah,
and to someone like you who comes from, I don't want to keep saying it, but it's true. I mean, the Guerreros are like the
thank you
the Gretzky.
You want to
family.
borrow money? I get it. Okay, I got like $5 for you.
Listen, I just want a LWO T-shirt.
LWO. All right, cool. ProWrestling.com. ProWrestlingTees.com still have those.
That's where I get my Kamala T-shirts.
Nice.
He gets the money.
Nice.
Poor Kamala, but that's another podcast. You, from someone who comes from a family like yours, or I can imagine what Stu Hart would think. What do you think of that show, Tough Enough? I mean, or shows maybe not specifically. I mean, like a reality show where you give someone with absolutely no wrestling experience a shot.
It's TV. So it's not. I was a trainer on Tough Enough 2, and that was the season where Jack
Swagger?
No, Jackie
Gata?
Jackie Gata?
Yes.
Yeah, Jackie Gata.
Yes.
She's married to Charlie Haas now. And Shaniqua, she came out. They won it.
Right.
Now, I was a trainer on there. We were trying to put out the best wrestler out there. As a network, USA was just I think it was USA, maybe it was Spike. I'm not sure what it was back then. They were just putting on a TV show. They didn't care about who won. They didn't care about it. So it's just a TV show that you're watching. That's why a lot of the Tough Enough winners don't ever make it, because they do the show, they win it, and then they're forgotten forever. The only one that really who's still so good is John Morrison. You can watch.
Awesome.
You can watch him with me on Lucha Underground.
Johnny Mundo.
That's right, Johnny Mundo. There's not really anybody who ever won, who ever kind of made it. It's because it's a TV show. You're winning a TV show. Then you have to come to reality, and you have to really train for wrestling and become a WWE superstar or a pro wrestler. It's apples and oranges. You're comparing two different things. So if you look at it that way, it's just a TV show. So I'm like, yeah, all for it. Great. It brings more exposure to wrestling. Awesome. That everybody wins from that.
Let's just say let's say this season's winner, whoever it may be.
Real quick before you
please.
You were saying Stu Hart and those guys would probably turn over in his grave because of the fact that they're always kayfabe. They'd always keep it. They would never give out the secrets of wrestling. And, the secret's out. So it's, entertainment. Although we beat the crap out of each other, it's entertainment. And any sport who says they're different they're lying to you. UFC is entertainment. I'm not saying that they're not going to fight for real, but once you make $1 in one sport, it's not a sport anymore. It's entertainment. Pro football. Without ratings, there is no pro football. Look at the WNBA. That thing's about ready to close.
Those guys can play.
Oh, and I'm not saying I'm not saying they're not great athletes and they could ball with me like crazy, right? But I mean, they kill me. But if there's no revenue and nobody's watching, it doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. If a tree falls in the woods, does it ever make a sound? If I can score 100 points a game but nobody watches, did I really score 100 points?
Right. So
So that being said, I think Stu and those old timers would not like the show at all because they're giving away the business. But it's just entertainment. Once you get to that point, it's entertainment.
But would you I remember the first season of Tough Enough, which I think was on MTV.
Sure. Yes, it was.
Who was the winner? I want to say Maven.
Maven and Nydia.
Right.
Yes. Both good friends of mine.
Now, Maven's, I thought he had potential.
Absolutely. They're good. He was good. Nidia was good. I don't know why they didn't make it. Sometimes winning that tough enough kind of gives you a stigma or something like that. I don't know. But those guys both proved that they were tough guys. They didn't just make it and go to the main roster. They went to OVW, I believe it was at the time, and trained and properly and stuff, and then came in and, I don't know why. I know what happened. I don't hire and fire, but
you should.
WWE
would be a better place with you.
We'll see.
But do the boys in the back go a little harder to say, a winner of Tough Enough comes in, they have a dark match, or do you give them a couple?
I would go harder on anybody who first came in, winner of Tough Enough or not. You're coming into our business. You're going to show you who, in a safe way for the most part. I'm not going to punch you and break your nose, but I'm definitely going to go harder on you, see what you're made out of. And you proved me you can hang. Okay, I come from a little bit of an old school mentality that I'm going to make sure that you respect this business, and you don't have to be the toughest guy in the world, but at the same time you can't be just a sort of pushover. You're carrying our legacy, so you have to be able to handle yourself a little bit.
Were there guys that you were scared to work with? You don't have to mention their names. Mm-hmm. But because they didn't know their own strength. Like I know Goldberg kicked Bret Hart and injured him.
Concussion, yeah.
Were there reckless guys that you like?
There are. Sometimes there's some guys that don't know their own strength, and I won't say a bunch of names, but there's you learn how to work with them. I was taught as a kid how to protect myself from guys like that. There are some guys that I'll just give my body, here you go, because they're so good at what they do.
Because you trust them.
Absolutely. And even then, sometimes things happen. But there's guys, you really have to watch it sometimes, because sometimes they come in, they're clumsy, and they may not be meaning to kick your butt, but they're breaking noses and busting eardrums and that kind of stuff just because they don't know what they're doing. I'll say Chris Masters. You know Chris Masters, right? Masterpiece. I love him to death. He's a great guy. But when he first came in, he was like a big puppy dog. His paws were too big for his body. He didn't know how to blah, 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 blah. He's such a nice guy. But, man, he was so strong and would kind of kick our asses a lot. And I got pissed off. I yelled at him numerous occasions, and he'll tell you. And then when he really learned how to work, he became very good. I'll get in the ring with him any day now. He's so good and takes great care of you and looks like he's killing you. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it look better than real. We have that we can manipulate to where it looks better than real. So he was a guy that learned how to perfect his craft. But when he first came in, man, he'd be kicking our asses, and I'd take him in the back and yelling at him and, "What are you doing? I'm sorry, Chavo. I'm sorry." But he'll tell you that. He learned.
Now, what happens when you get legitimately mad at someone in the ring? Like I know Randy Orton and Mr. Kennedy. Randy got really pissed at him because he blew a spot. How do you control your emotions? Because you don't, there's that line of, okay, we still have a match to complete, or do you try and save your anger towards the locker room afterwards, or do you whisper, "Hey, motherfucker"?
Yeah, for sure, it's professionalism for sure.
Right.
Now, my job is professional wrestling. It's not fighting. I'm not saying that I cannot fight, but when I'm in the ring, people are paying to see me professional wrestle. They're not paying to see me fight. Now, if you've ever seen a bar fight, it's the sloppiest, worst thing you've ever seen. You may be watching it just because of the awe of it, like, what the heck? But it's horrible. You're not paying to watch. It's not entertaining. You got two guys slapping. They don't really know what they're doing. They're not paying to see me do that. So there's professionalism. So here's one story. My Uncle Mono, my dad, were tag teaming. I don't know who they were facing, but it was in Mexico at the time. And they got in a fight in the locker room with the guys. They're talking about the match and what we should do, and they started fighting in the locker room. Then all of a sudden they said, "Hey, you guys are on, your music's playing." They all 4 ran out to the ring, wrestled, had a great match. left it all in the back. And as soon as they came back in the dressing room, they started fighting again. That's professionalism. Now, that's the same thing I want to do in the ring. When I get in the ring, there are times when I got to grab somebody and say, hey, we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. Either way, I'm going to win. You know, I'm going to pin you or I'm going to choke you out one way. We can either do it the easy way, which is the work way and the pro wrestling way, or we can do it the fighting way. When we do it the fighting way, we both lose. It doesn't matter. Fans lose, everybody loses. So there are times that you need to do that. There's times that you have to, you know, you get potatoed, it's called, when somebody hits you in the face too hard. And there are times when you have to give a receipt. But I know when somebody potatoes me on purpose and when they do it on accident, for the most part. And then there's carelessness. Even though they're doing an accident, if they're doing careless, then you have to show them, hey, they ain't going to fly. You know, it's like a dog's barking. You got to bark back sometimes just so they can say, oh, okay, he's boss. You got to feel it out. Everybody's different. Every match is different.
I mean, does it depend on their stature in the company? Like, you know, if you're in a match with, say, Rick Rude, who's, you know,
sure,
pretty high up in the food chain, I would imagine,
sure.
Or if you're against, you know, a greener rookie, do you go through your mind, well, I can't really potato him back because he's Rick Rude, or
maybe my first year in the business or as a rookie, yeah, sure, maybe you kind of take it but once you know your spot and you're a veteran too, then yeah, you're a veteran, you shouldn't be doing that to me. So I would definitely give it back for sure.
Well, you're a big guy, so
guy, yeah, huge. I'm tiny in this business.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, there's certainly being a smaller pro wrestler. Was it discouraging at times to see like who would get the belt? Like, say, a guy like Sid Vicious, and I'm just throwing out names of some of the bigger guys. You know, Nash. Did you, like, guys like you and Eddie and Benoit, go, we don't look like that. We're never gonna like grow.
Sure. You can say I didn't get the push because I wasn't 6'8". I didn't get to win the title because I wasn't 6'9". You can say that all day long, but in the end, what they really see, what Vince McMahon sees, and I'm not talking about other organizations, what Vince McMahon sees is he sees green. If you can make him more money than a guy who's 6'8", you're going to be the champ.
Right.
And that's just the way it goes. You may have to work harder. You may have to push yourself and do different things than a 6'8" guy, but you're going to get your spot because you can draw. You can put asses in the seats, we call it. So if you come down to it and you say, well, the reason why I was never the WWE champion, I guess I just didn't put enough asses in the seats. That is what it comes down to.
But like when guys like Eddie and Benoit won,
sure,
did that make guys like you feel, oh, I do have you can be a smaller wrestler?
Absolutely. He gave hope to all the smaller wrestlers. And Kurt Angle was one of the first ones. He's not a big guy, even though he was an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, whatever weight he was at, light, heavyweight, whatever he was. He was not a big guy. Now, he's thick, but as far as tall stature, he's really not. Then you had Benoit, who's a big, thick guy, but he wasn't really a tall stature guy. Shawn Michaels isn't a big guy, and he won, you know, and Eddie and Rey Mysterio and now, you know, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and those guys, you can break through the mold for sure. Are you going to be the guy? Are you going to be the Cena? Whatever. This is a big man sport, kind of the way it is, but there's no excuses. If you draw, you're gonna be the champ in any sport. Right. In UFC, it's the same thing. Brock Lesnar won the heavyweight championship. You know, the heavyweight UFC championship on was fourth fight, because he was drawing. If he was just that big guy and nobody was paying to see him, I guarantee you he would never got the shot.
Well, they have a guy who actually beat Lesnar, Alistair Overeem.
Oh yeah, destroyed him.
Who's got this amazing look. I mean, and he keeps getting chances, even though, you know, hasn't had the best UFC career.
He keeps testing positive for
horse
steroids.
Meat. Yeah. He said it was horse meat, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I think his testosterone level was like 10-1. 15-1. That's when you just say, screw you, I'm doing anything I want. And he used to be a 205-pounder. Then when he wrestled Brock, he was bigger than Brock.
Well, when he when he fought Chuck Liddell in 2003.
Exactly.
He looked like Roger from What's Happening.
Didn't even look anything like it, right? And then all of a sudden, he Barry Bonds everybody. He came out with a neck that was bigger than, I think he grew. He must have grown 5 inches. I don't know. This kid is just huge.
He's 265 now.
Yeah. So if I'd guarantee you, if people be paying to see him.
Oh, I'm fascinated by him. He's got a fight coming up in December against Dos Santos.
Right. Yeah, it's good. Dos Santos, absolutely. I'm a big fan.
They legitimately don't like each other.
Nice.
So that's, December 19th in Orlando.
Cool.
Now, I don't want to get too into it, but I guess in the world of pro wrestling, UFC, sports in general, performance-enhancing products, I'm not saying you, but has a smaller wrestler, was there ever internal pressure from yourself or from others to go, hey, if you want to get to the top, you got to look like the Ultimate Warrior?
Things have changed. In the 80s and 90s, that was the look, and that's what you did. So when you were walking down the street, in the 80s, when you saw a big, huge, jacked up dude walking down the street, you went, wow, that's awesome. Now when you see that guy walking down the street, you go, steroids. Right. The look has changed. The UFC lean and mean look is in. But in the 80s, when I saw a guy was huge with big old shoulders that looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I was like, wow, that's so awesome. Now that look is, you can tell it's a drug look.
Right.
We're all educated now on that. So back in the day, that just was the norm. Not that anybody told you had to do it, but everybody kind of understood that's kind of what you did. In all sports.
Sure.
In all sports, you even though we weren't trying to compete, it was a body sport, and you did what you had to do to get your body looking a certain way and get your size a certain way. Now it's different. Now everybody's tested like with Olympic testing, all different. NFL. I was just talking to an NFL player the other day, and Major League Baseball, and definitely wrestling. We're all tested like Olympic sport, even though we're like Shakespeare, I guess, or
right.
Monty Python's Flying Circus. But we're tested like that now, so you cannot, at least in the WWF or WWE, right. You cannot have. If you have any kind of drug in you, if you have an Ambien in you, and you do not have a prescription for Ambien, you are suspended. If you have a prescription for Ambien, but it is expired, you are suspended. That's just the way it is with anything now. I mean, they're just cracking down on everything, and you should. There's too many people abused it, and too many people just went over the edge with it, and you just. That looks bad for the sport, for the business,
Now, I don't want to end it here, but I know you're a busy man. You have wrestled ECW, WCW, right. WWE, even TNA. Is there a difference between all four in terms of the professionalism? Like, were there certain things that would fly in one organization that wouldn't in the other? Was there one you enjoyed working for the most or the least?
Sure, they were all different. So coming from WCW, my first real big organization, you saw it was great. Hey, that you just thought that was the way it was. Then I went to WWF at the time, who's changed to WWE. I had a talk with Kevin Dunn one time, and I said, "This is how a company should be run."
Right.
I saw it and I was like, wow, this company was all firing on all 8 cylinders, man. Everybody had their job and everybody was going towards one goal, which is to make money. In WCW, it wasn't really like that. WCW it was too big. We were a part of Turner, who owned the Braves and who owned the
Hawks.
Thrashers and the Hawks. And then we became, I don't know, I think it was AOL and then Time Warner or one of that order. It was just too big. It was too many bosses, too many chiefs, not enough Indians. So there was nobody to police anybody. So in WCW, we got merchandise people that they kind of would do what they wanted. It didn't really matter. WWE, at least when I was there, was not like that. WWE, if you were not doing your job, your butt was handed to you. I remember being in Europe one time, and they took us. It was me and Kane and 4 or 5 other superstars, and they took us up to the meet and greet room, and the lady just walked us in. They walked us in. Nobody of the VIPs didn't even know we were there. They all kind of looked around, turned and looked at us, and then turned back to their conversation and just kept talking. And we were just standing there like a bunch of jackasses with our in our hand, right. And just going like, "Are you kidding me? This is not how it should be." So when I went downstairs, I told the agent, and the agent, he was like, "What happened?" I said, "This isn't right." Next thing you know, I got a call from Stephanie McMahon, and this is in Europe. And she said, "Chavo, thank you for letting us know that girl's been fired." And I'm like, I wasn't trying to get her fired. He's like, no. That does not fly. That's not how we do things. That is not, thank you for keeping us, checking it and informing us because we're not there. They knew their stuff. Other places, so I didn't want to talk too much crap about people.
Oh, no, I don't want you to talk crap. I just...
Yeah,
ECW was...
TNA wasn't really like that.
Right.
TNA was kind of... They could be doing some things different to maximize their growth. And I mean, I definitely see it. I mean, and you don't want to get into too detail, but you see the product and you see what's kind of going on with them. So it's nothing new. But they can definitely be doing different things to maximize that and to grow in the right way. Whether they compete or not, I don't know. But I would change a whole bunch of things with that. Where I'm at now, Lucha Underground, those guys they're awesome. Now we're just getting started. First season, we're treating wrestling like a TV show, which should be. So we actually do a season. We don't run continuously. And these guys, they're still can be better because we can always get better. But these guys know what they're doing. They're there to put on the best show possible. And soon we'll have the merchandising going on, and we've got so much more potential to it. But we're just right. Our main focus is to get back on the air for our season 2 right now. And once that starts, then everything else will fall in line.
And that's on the El Rey network?
That's on the El Rey network. It's also on Univision, which is their Unimas station. We are in hiatus right now. We've already run our last episode of the first season. Getting ready to shoot a second season soon. But also, we're trying to get that hashtag out there that Netflix needs Lucha, because that's the next thing, is putting it on Netflix and kind of getting it out to the rest of the world.
Well, I'm on the Rob Schneider show, A Real Rob on Netflix. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, man. Heck yeah. I'm a fan of Rob. Tom said, hey.
Rob's the best.
Really?
It's gotten me every paying gig.
You can do it.
He's
we
a
all still
fan,
say that.
ain't he?
He's more of an MMA fan. I tried to get him into wrestling, but he was wrestling's
it's different. It's a niche. Once you get it, you get it.
Right.
It's one of those things. Once you get it, you get it. It's just, there's people that are wrestling fans that aren't MMA fans because it's just different. It's just a different game. So, whatever.
Well, I'm going to ask you one more question.
Sure.
If Eric, you have another question.
No, you go ahead.
Is it the goal of like TNA, Lucha Underground, eventually to try and compete with the WWE?
Lucha Underground, what we do is we don't try to compete. And the reason being is this, is WWE is the Coca-Cola of wrestling. If we try to put out another cola, all we are is a knockoff of WWE. So Mark Burnett, the producer, Survivor, Celebrity Apprentice, Shark Tank, The Voice, he created our show, Lucha Underground. The theory, his way of thinking is he would rather not succeed and fail being different than WWE than succeed being the same. Right. So we have a completely different product, and I call it Wrestling 3000 because it's unlike anything you've ever seen. Everybody says they're different.
Well, I love it.
No one is, right? You watch it?
Yeah, I
it's
watch it
filmed like
already.
a movie, right? It's crazy.
I like Conan, man. It was good because I was a big K-Dog fan.
Yeah, man, he's
man.
awesome on that show.
And him playing like a mentor and then like a heel manager, it was great.
Yeah, and we film like a movie. I mean, when we do our backstage vignettes, it's not John Cena and Randy Orton walking down the hallway with a conveniently placed video camera. It's filmed like a movie. We have lighting, directors, wardrobe, smoke. We're filming it with a jib camera. We're filming over one shoulder. We're filming all these different shots. It's filmed just like a movie.
No, the production values are really
it's crazy.
good.
It's ridiculous.
And
so what you're saying, we do not want to compete with WWE. Other places, I don't know. I don't work there anymore, so I'm not sure what they're thinking.
But what's the feeling in WCW like? Because you had the budget, you know, and I did like initially, like, yeah, let's get the Hogans, the Macho Mans, you know, the Warrior, but they didn't. They seem to have a good short-term plan, like the NWO.
I don't care what anybody says over there. And I hear Eric Bischoff do some podcasts sometimes that he wasn't trying to compete. Bullshit. They would tell us over and over again that they wanted to beat WWE. That was their job. And when we overtook them, we glowed. We were proud. We were proud that we were the #1 wrestling show on TV in the world.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, for
84
forever.
weeks.
We talked about it, how we beat WWE, and we were proud of it. So we were trying to compete, and we almost, and this is coming from WWE execs at the time, we almost put them out of business. Almost. There was a time when the wrestlers at WWE were making $50 payouts. There was no money. Then they switched and they became that Shock TV, and they started doing, you know, the
Attitude Era.
Attitude Era, you know, with DX and puppies and all this different stuff, and they just completely changed, and they blew us out of the water with The Rock and with Stone Cold and everything. They totally changed their style. They had to. If they wanted to survive, they had to change.
Was there either not necessarily a match, but was there a moment where the boys in WCW was like, uh-oh, we're about to start getting our asses kicked? Was it like...
Yeah, there was a time. I mean, I guess when those guys like The Rock and Stone Cold, we started watching them, we started becoming fans. And like, wow, this is really cool. DX, the stuff they were doing was like, wow. And then we tried to compete with them, and they tried to compete with us. And you know, when DX came in Norfolk and they had a tank,
I remember that. I remember watching that.
We didn't know whether to go out and kick their ass or go out and get autographs, because we're all fans too, man. We're like, wow, dude, no way, Triple H, DX is out there. We gotta go say it. We gotta go say hey to those guys. You know, really, it was cool to see that, you know. But it's just, we tried to compete like crazy. And if anybody tells you that it wasn't a competition, they're lying to you.
Well, I mean,
huge.
When you guys gave away the results of, because Raw was taped
Yeah,
at one point.
yeah, we gave away the results.
I'll put asses in seats.
And
They both did, man.
Yeah.
They both. That was when
That's what I
wrestling
remember
was.
Bischoff saying that.
Wrestling ratings had never been that high.
oh, it was great.
With that
as a fan.
that competition, as a wrestler, as a fan, as a promoter, everybody won.
See, I remember being in 6th grade, and I was at Monday Night Raw in '97, like my favorite year of like wrestling as far as the Attitude Era. Rocky Maivia came out of his hiatus. He was 5 seats down from me. I remember he was wearing blue shorts, a Tommy Hilfiger striped shirt. I remember everything. Farouk had a match with one of the guys from DOA, and he's still Rocky Maivia.
Yeah.
And we thought, he's going to help the biker out. Nation Domination bad guys. Hits that rock bottom. But
Yeah.
I even went back and listened to Jim. I was like, he choke slammed him. And then he joined the Nation Domination. And also that same night, Shawn Michaels had a hardcore match with Mankind, and here comes the insurance policy, Rick Rude.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
And then Triple H of China refused.
See, I don't remember any of that shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was... And then that's the night DX for, and then 2 months later, Nitro came to town. And I remember the Ravens flock coming down there, and I'm a little kid, you know. I'm marking out. I'm talking shit to them. And, yeah, and I remember finally getting to see the Luchador live. I remember that blowing my mind.
yeah.
So every time I think of the Monday Night Wars in 2 months, and during And this is 97. This is when it was like y'all were blowing them out of the water, and they're kind of making a comeback, having the Hart Foundation feud. But I remember seeing Eddie and Dean Malenko put on a hell of a match that night.
Oh,
and then Rey Mysterio beat Disco Inferno. But sorry, I didn't mean to go on.
Glenn's a great guy.
I love him.
I'm not shitting on the
Glenn, no problem. Great guy. Glenn, still make sure I didn't say any of that, so make sure you still get me into Sapphires in Vegas for free. Thank you.
We could also go to Cheetah's and visit the Godfather.
The Godfather, yeah. Not that I know.
Charles
heard.
Well, I got one more thing I want to go over. You got 5 minutes.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
And I apologize for the humidity in this house.
It is hot.
I mean, we're all sweating in here, but I want to end on a somewhat serious topic. We all know Hulk Hogan's recent problems.
Sure.
And I can't watch any of his old promos anymore because I know every time he says brother, what word he really wanted to use. And the WWE fired him for his interesting views on society. And you being of Latino heritage, sure. I've always found wrestling as a fan to be kind of a not a racist business, but I look at as a kid, I look at some of the characters I grew up with. You had Kamala, some savage Ugandan giant, junkyard dog coming to the ring in a dog collar, barking on all fours. Slick, the jive-talking pimp, and probably my favorite character of all time, Akeem, the African Dream.
Right. They play on stereotypes, what you're trying to say.
To a degree, but has someone who, I'm Irish white, sure. I guess, has a Hispanic Latino man. Did that ever bother you?
No, man, no. You know what? I remember one time somebody came to me and said, "Oh, do you like what Eddie's doing over there in WWF?" I was still in WCW after they had made the jump. Do you like what Eddie's doing when he's coming out, and it was before the Lowriders, but he's saying Mamacita and he's really overplaying the stereotype. I'm like, do I like it? Like, yeah, I mean, doesn't that demean the Hispanics? I'm like, he's playing a character. Are you not asking me when Edward James Olmos was an American Me and was a gang leader? You didn't ask me about that. Well, it's different. I go, no, it's not different. They're playing a character. Wrestling, that's not really Eddie. That's not it. So he's playing a character. It's not. So to me, that's the way wrestling was, and they were really playing stereotypes. Just that's the way TV was. You got look at All in the Family. That's all they talked about. Doug. Well, but Edith, he's a Puerto Rican. You remember that, right?
Right.
I mean, you remember all that stuff. So I mean, that's just the way it was. Things are very PC now, and sometimes way too PC. But you kind of had to go that way, And the whole thing with Hulk. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I'm going to tell you about both Hulk real quick. I've known him for a long time. I've never ever known him to be racist. Not that I condone anything he said. We've all have said stuff that we probably didn't want to be taped. And just because somebody says a racist remark doesn't mean they're racist, in the sense that if you do not say a racist remark, doesn't make you not a racist. So that's kind of all I really got to say on that. I've known him for a long time, and I know the ones in the business that were racist, and you can tell.
And were there racist?
Absolutely. There's racism all over in any business, in all walks of life, and all over the world. There's racism, but and being small brown guy, yeah, you saw it at times. But the way you are in control of racism. I am. If anybody calls me a beaner or whatever, any Mexican word you want to say, I'm in control whether I want that to affect me or not. So who was the comedian that ousted Bill Cosby?
Hannibal Buress.
So Hannibal, he had a good take on it. He's like, you know what? You guys are all mad at Hulk Hogan. I'm happy because now I know her daughter dates brothers. Now he didn't know before, but Brooke, hey, she's into the brothers. All right, cool. But I think everybody's so PC, and they just jump on like a witch hunt. Everybody jumps on witch hunts now, and you say one thing wrong, and they kill it. It's one thing if you're look at what Donald Trump's doing right now, and no one's condemning him, saying he's a racist, and he's saying way more racist things than anybody out there right now.
Well, yeah, he's build a wall, and
well, not even build a wall. He's talking about deporting 11 million Hispanics. They spend $386 billion a year in the United States. That's $386 billion into our economy.
Right.
And now you take that away, that's going to crash our economy. That's gone. Everybody's just so PC out there. You just everybody just lighten up a little bit. Take it easy. Hey, take it easy.
Well, I want to go deeper into this, but I also want to leave on a good, just real fast. If you were in the ring,
yep,
with someone like Kamala tells a story in his book. Long story short, that Andre the Giant called him maybe a word he shouldn't have.
Sure,
and he said that they probably had their best match ever because it was basically a real match.
Sure.
Were you ever in the ring with someone like I know there was this incident a couple years ago with Alberto Del Rio.
Yep.
Backstage at WWE, the guy basically said, "Pick up my tray."
Sure.
Did you ever have to wrestle against someone you knew was maybe not racist, but
sure. I know exactly what you're saying there. You know.
And did you how did you handle
it? If I
it?
wrestled with somebody in there, first of all, I would give him some props for having some big balls for actually being in the ring with somebody who can at somebody punch you in the face. Whether I'll win or not, I will punch you in the face. And if you're going to say it, well then okay, maybe it's on. So I've never been in the ring with somebody who felt that way and had the balls enough to actually say that to me in the ring. But a good funny story. One thing in this business you learn real fast when we become a big brotherhood. Once we're putting our bodies on the line with each other, that I have friends in this business. There's no way that outside, and if I never met them in the in the streets, that we probably would have ever hung out. I have some of my best friends that'll go to war for me from different walks of life that look like big biker guys or look like small black guys or Oriental Asian guys or whatever, because we've become like a brotherhood, because not only is our lives in each other's hands, but we're making money together. So I don't care if you like an African American or if you don't like a Hispanic, but if the guy's making you money, you're probably going to tolerate it pretty good. Like the owner of the Clippers, he may have thought a certain way, but hey, these African Americans were making him a whole lot of money, so he really never ever told them what he was talking. Matt. But a real good little quick story is I was in the ring with Steven Regal at the time,
right,
in WCW, and he was from England playing the English gimmick, the pompous Englishman, and they were chanting USA, USA. So I was chanting along with them, yeah, USA, USA, USA. And we're like in Alabama somewhere. Mm-hmm. And as soon as it went quiet, got some guy in the front row, and it went quiet, and it was a lot of people in the back. It went quiet, and you got this big redneck guy going, and he's spitting. He's like, Chavo, you ain't American. You's a beaner. Right in the middle of the ring, I started laughing. Going, oh my God, I guess you're right, man. I go, I'm an American citizen, dumbass, Right. And oh man, it was just funny at the time. Yeah, I could have gotten mad at the guy, whatever. I was like,
sorry for my people.
It's all good. I started laughing. I was like, it's funny because I was USA, USA. Although I am an American and very, very proud of it, I do hold on to my Mexican heritage also.
Oh, sure.
But that's just a little funny story. But hey, everybody's different in all walks of life, and there's that the all the different jokes out there, and what's. Now I don't want to get too much into getting in trouble, but if you
do
it, what, and you can do that with any. I'd say with an Hispanic. What's the first thing other nationalities say when they say an Hispanic joke? First thing they do is they look around right before they say it. You know what I mean? So, hey, we've all said jokes and we've all have been whatever. And I'm one of the least racist guys you'll ever meet. I'm always like, hey, I don't care what color you are, what nationality, what creed, what gender. If you're cool, you're cool. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. It's got nothing to do with race, color, anything, and that's what you should be.
I think, well, that's a good ending point for the podcast. I know we went all across the board. This is the part you're coming back for more, I hope.
All right, cool.
Because we just scratched the surface with you.
Right.
Where can people find you? Twitter, Instagram.
Okay, follow me on Twitter at MEX Warrior, MEX Warrior. Follow me on Instagram at Chavo Guerrero Jr. I'm also on Facebook. It's Real Chavo Guerrero Jr. That's kind of linked to my Twitter and stuff like that.
You have a website where people can buy some products?
Yeah, you can buy some stuff at VivaLaRazaShop.com. Also, I got a comic book coming out with the Lion Forge Comics called The Warrior's Creed. It's a comic on the Guerrero family. It's pretty crazy good. The Fabian Nasenza, who wrote Deadpool, actually wrote it, so it's getting a lot of play out there. Hasn't been released yet, but it's getting a lot of buzz. You can watch my show, The Chavo Show, on GeekNation.com, which I had just a podcast interview with Roddy Piper. God, I got a bunch of things going. I got a couple of movie things coming out. I just had a meeting about our clothing line, VLR, Viva La Raza, and that's going to be coming out very soon. And there's some buzz coming. I'm diversifying out there, man. The things that I should have done 10 years ago, I'm actually doing now. So just got my hands in a bunch of things, and there's more of Chavo out there.
Hell yeah.
And where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CallMeEC, and you can find me on Instagram at CallMeEC1. And if you're in L.A. Tuesday night, I got a roast battle coming up at the world-famous Comedy Store in the Bailey Room in Chavo. I'd love for you to be there.
I'd love to be there too.
You would be amazing.
I'd love to be there, man. I go ahead, keep on.
That's it. I don't have nothing else.
I did a quick little thing at the comedy club, and just to see where I was at, and that real quick Iron Sheik roast. Wish I was able to talk more, but man, that's hats off to you guys. That's tough, being in a crowd like that and just commanding that. It's one thing when I'm punching somebody in the face, but I got to sit there and tell jokes.
That's tough. I mean, I was lucky enough to host the Piper Memorial, and I was told, hey, throw out some jokes.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously Roddy meant the world to all of us, and it's like, well, his family's right there, and guys like you who are friends with him, and Diamond Dallas Page was there, and I was like, well, I don't really want to be too inappropriate, but it all worked out, and your story there was amazing.
It's a lot easier to be funny when people aren't expecting you to be funny, like at a hospital or a bar mitzvah or something like that. But when you're standing on stage and they're looking at you going to laugh, make me laugh, dance, clown, dance. It's tough. That's tough, But
we can't do what you do. Like the show Eric's doing, Roast Battle, I did a roast with John Morrison.
Yeah, he's good.
I gave him some advice, like, hey, it's a wild atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's like a very ECW, just rabid atmosphere. And he's like, Earl, I've been to WrestleMania. I've been in front of 50,000 people. Don't worry, I got it. And the minute he walked on stage, I could tell I don't got it. Like it would be like if I tried to wrestle, I'd be, I can do it, no problem.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, no.
Although we are improv specialists, that's what we kind of call wrestlers, because we improv a lot of things and being in front of the crowd, but it's a different audience, a different crowd. It's not it's a lot easier in front of 10,000 people at the Staples Center when I've got 6 months of storyline built up behind me and 20 years of wrestling, and I'm want to see me kick Rey Mysterio's butt, than to go up in front of the Comedy Store or comedy club and when people don't know who the heck I am and they're going to make me laugh.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It'd be like if I came out and, to the wrestling ring, people would be like, who the fuck is this guy?
Hey, we shit the bed sometimes. We come out and wrestle.
Yeah, but, let's just say this. I think you could be a much better comic than I would be a wrestler.
Earl, you did make DDP go, oh, at the memorial. Thought you should know that.
Well, I did. I think I said, I was talking about how Piper would go on stage and tell these wild stories. And then I asked him one day how big Mark Henry's shits were, and which I can imagine are substantial.
I've never actually seen him shit, so.
Well, I can imagine a man that size isn't putting out little pebbles.
Yeah, probably.
But Chavo, I can't thank you enough.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it very much.
And please follow Chavo Guerrero, Eric Carter. I don't have a lot of co-hosts on this show, but he was nice enough to come down here.
You don't need him.
Thank you for having me.
Follow him, Lucha Underground, El Rey Network. It's really it's a lot better, in my opinion, than WWE. It's just they are invested in the product, and it shows. So
for sure.
Please watch Chavo on that. Inappropriate Earl, iTunes and SoundCloud. This is going to be a big one for us. So I thank Chavo again, and we'll see you guys real soon. Thank you, guys.